The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the bacon is sizzling. Welcome to the Daily Swole.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 32 of The Daily Mother Swole. Today we are talking about negative eccentric training, and I got my hater blockers on to protect myself from all those CrossFit lovers out there that got butthurt during yesterday's broadcast when I was doing the pull-ups correctly. Ahem. So if you're watching live on Busker, live on Periscope, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're checking in on SoundCloud and iTunes, we are talking negative training. And the reason why I want to talk about negative training today and eccentric training is because we went over the pull-up yesterday. Went over the pull-up, broke it down, and I want to describe and go into a little more depth about why negatives and why the eccentric training that I demonstrated yesterday in Daily Swole 31, why that's an effective method to increase your ability to do a pull-up. I discussed why a pull-up's important, why people want to do a pull-up, why someone wants to or should be able to do a pull-up. It's a functional exercise. It's something that everyone should do. It's a powerful feeling. It's very important, I believe, for someone to be able to do a pull-up, to have command of their body, and it's just a good self-esteem booster. Moving forward, let's get into negatives. Let's get into eccentric training. Let me break down the three types of muscle contraction. Every single muscle in the body can contract in three different ways. The muscle can short while it contracts, so it produces force that overcomes the external force, which is a concentric contraction. The example would be, for example, on a pull-up, pulling yourself up to the bar. That's a concentric contraction. The muscle fibers are shortening, and the body is overcoming the force of gravity. An isometric contraction. Isometric contraction would be if you were to hold at the top of the bar. You're going to hold for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 10 minutes, doesn't matter. The muscle's producing force. You're not relaxing. You're still holding in position, but you're holding for an extended period of time. The muscle's contracting, producing force, but it's not lengthening or shortening. No change in length. An eccentric contraction. Our subject today, the eccentric contraction, is based on the muscle producing force with the pull of gravity, decelerating the force. So in other words, lowering yourself slowly from the bar. If you're doing a bicep curl, lowering the bar down. If you're doing a squat or you're sitting down to a chair, lowering yourself down into a chair. These are all types of eccentric contraction. The muscle, you're not just flopping down. You're not just flying down from the bar. You're controlling the descent. You're decelerating your body. Now that deceleration is still producing force, but you're not quite producing enough force to match it and to not move. And you're not quite producing enough force in order to overcome it and go upwards. You're just lowering yourself down with the pull of gravity. You're decelerating the movement. So let's talk a little bit more about negatives and why they're effective for learning how to do a pull-up. The benefit of doing negatives is because you're splitting up the exercise, you're splitting up the movement into pretty much three different parts: the concentric, isometric, and eccentric. So you're only training the eccentric. You're only training the negatives. Only training the negatives allows you to work the same exact muscle that will be working on the way up on the concentric, the same exact muscle that will be holding in place during the isometric. You are choosing the strongest type of contraction. Eccentric is the strongest type of contraction. So for someone or a situation where you cannot perform a pull-up, you can't pull yourself up. You might not even be able to hold yourself at the top, but you might be able to slowly decelerate your body, hit the same muscles, still activate your core muscles, and keep your body balanced in space, and do as much of a real pull-up as you can, but only part of the movement that you can handle. So instead of trying to strengthen something that's weak, like how are you going to do a pull-up? How are you going to do a pull-up if you can't do a pull-up? You have to train those muscles to do a pull-up. And I'm sorry, but getting on a lat pull-down machine, getting onto one of those assisted pull-ups that has like a thing that you kneel on that helps you up, that's not going to help you do a pull-up. That's a machine. That's something completely different. It doesn't train core strength. It's really not going to help you that much to do an actual pull-up. And you'll notice if you ever tried that, how much different it is trying to actually do a pull-up in free space rather than use one of those machines. It's like night and day. It's like you've never really even been working the muscle. It's completely different. So Exercises to do negatives. Exercise to do negatives. You can look at Daily Swole 31 yesterday, and I demonstrate what a negative looks like for a pull-up, so you could check that out. The exercise that you should use for a negative are generally compound exercise. I've talked about compound exercise before. Those are exercises that use multiple joints, 2, 3, or more joints. For example, a squat, you're using your ankle, knee, hip joints. For example, a bench press, elbow and shoulder joints. For a pull-up, elbow and shoulder joints again. So you're using multiple joints, and the reason why is because since you're overloading the body, since you're providing extra force, more force than the body can handle, you want to be careful doing negatives with single joints. Like, for example, doing a negative only for a bicep curl or for a concentration curl or for a tricep extension. You got to be very careful because you could easily irritate the tendon, easily get tendonitis and get an acute injury from training negatives on a single joint. Only recommended for people that are very advanced, have a lot of experience, and have a strong base with their musculature and experience in the gym and when to quit and so forth, because you could easily overdo it and you'll be out or could possibly create permanent injury. So compound movements, negatives are fantastic, and isolated only for advanced people. So for a way, and I'm going to give you one method, and we'll actually be pretty much done talking about negatives for the day. When you're doing a negative, for example, when you're doing a pull-up, your goal is to hold it and to lower the descent as long as possible. I challenge you to do 5 seconds. So as I described and as I demonstrated in the video yesterday, you step up on the box, you're up at the top, you're going to lower yourself slowly for a count of 5 until you're about fully extended. Control the whole way down. Don't drop it at the bottom. Slowly lower all the way down. Once you get to the bottom, you're going to step up on your box that you have hanging there or sitting there from, when you got up on the pull-up bar. You come back up, start at the top again, and lower again for 5 seconds. Controlled. You're going to do that for about 5, 6, up to 10 repetitions, and you might do 1, 2, or 3 sets. This is a very challenging type of training, so you don't want to overload yourself too much you don't want to do this every day. You might only want to do it once a week or twice a week, depending on what your experience is or how sore you are the next day. But as you get stronger, you'll be able to lower for 6 seconds, for 7 seconds, for 8 seconds. So once you can start doing it consistently and you get all the way to like 8 to 10 repetitions where you're doing a 5-second descent all the way through those reps with minimal rest between repetitions. Because once you get to the bottom, I want you to step back up and lower slowly again. So once you get all the way to 10, you could try doing all the reps with 6 seconds. If you can't do 6, let's say you do the first 5 or 6 reps doing 6-second negatives. The last 4, I want you to drop it to 5. Just keep it going. Do all the reps, but then drop it down to 5. So try doing your negatives. Try starting with 5-second descent. If you can only do a 3-second descent, that's what you'll do. If you can't do any, it'll be beneficial to do negatives, for example, on one of those pull-up assisted machines, but just put very little weight, as little as you need to get a quality 5-second negative, and then string those together for a set. So if you're looking to challenge yourself, if you're looking to build muscle, if you're looking to strengthen yourself, especially to break through a plateau, it doesn't have to be pull-ups. It could be a plateau where you're lifting the same weight on a certain exercise, bench press, squat, let's say pull-ups, for example, you're stuck at doing 10 pull-ups in a row. You could do freestanding pull-ups. You're a guy, you're strong. Or a female, you're strong and you just want to get past. You want to do 11, you want to be able to do 12, you want to be able to do 13. This is one way where you can challenge yourself and push yourself and do more for your muscle and overload the musculature and then propel yourself to a higher repetition set in the future, or to be able to be doing a pull-up on your own freestanding. If you want to do a pull-up, if you've always wanted to do a pull-up, but you've never been able to, I wish I could, I can't do pull-ups, they're so hard. Yeah, they're hard, but you also don't do the right thing to be able to do them. Doing a lat pull-down, doing a pull-up assist will not help you do a pull-up. It won't. And if you're doing that now, you have proof because you can't do a pull-up. So don't sit around and waste your fucking time on those stupid machines if you want to do a pull-up. If you don't want to do a pull-up, you don't care, and you just want to work some muscles and kind of go through the motion, that's fine. But you should be able to do a pull-up. Every human being should be able to do a pull-up. And if you can't, the time is now to start training. Women have a harder time with pull-ups because most of their weight's distributed on their lower body and they have less muscle mass overall. But that's just a genetic thing. You can definitely, at minimum, improve your ability to do a freestanding pull-up. You can at least train your body and overload your body and activate more core musculature. Because anytime you're doing a pull-up, even a negative, you're hitting more core musculature. So even if you can never do a freestanding pull-up, you could train your negatives and you will be able to strengthen your core muscles all the way down to the base of your core, which is your glutes, which are your hips, your pelvis. you'll be able to strengthen your core musculature. You will hit more muscles, everything from your grip strength. You'll create that functional base. You'll create more confidence. You'll create more control and neuromuscular coordination with your body. So all your other lifts will improve. Coordination will improve. The joint stabilization, the shoulder girdle, the shoulder joint will improve. Everything benefits from being able to do a functional movement like a pull-up. So if you can't do a pull-up, or you want to improve your pull-ups and improve your form and get a higher number and get a higher, or improve your form and get back to the basics, do negatives. You can always do weighted negatives. If you do high pull-ups already, you could do, put one of those weight belts on, put plates. That's more advanced. Don't recommend that for someone who's never started. But these are ways where you can shock the body. You can stimulate growth. And this is how, using negatives is how you will get to do something that you can't do. If you can only bench 100 pounds, well, I can only bench 100 pounds. How do you start benching 110 if you can't bench? If you can only bench 100, you just start lifting more. I think I'm just gonna be stronger today. No, you have to stimulate the fibers in a way that will create adaptation where the body will be able to lift more weight. So if you don't stress it and overload it and push it to the point where it's going to adapt to handle more weight, you'll just plateau and you'll stay the same. So you have to adjust. You have to manipulate your training, and segmenting certain types of contractions will be beneficial in order to increase the performance, the capacity, and the overall stability and aesthetic even of those lifts. So pull up hits every single muscle in the upper body, even in the lower body, for stabilizing the core. You'll get a better V-taper. You'll get better aesthetics. You'll carve up your musculature more. You'll have more muscle separation. You'll have more confidence. It's a very basic, functional human movement. The pull-up. So train your negatives. If you can't do a pull-up, try using negatives. That, ladies and gentlemen, is episode 32 of The Daily Mother Swole. You heard it here first. Negatives are the shiznit. Don't kip. Do your proper pull-ups and do negatives if you want to improve your pull-up skills. Check episode 31, the one just before this, for videos and for information of what a negative pull-up looks like. I'm using that specifically because that is the sticking point for most people, but negatives and eccentric training can be used for pretty much every single compound exercise, and pretty much guaranteed to be effective if you stick with it, if you're consistent, and you do it properly. One final thing before I sign off based on negatives. For most negatives, let's say bench pressing, squats, anytime you use a negative, make sure you have quality spot or spotters, a quality spotter or spotters, especially if you're doing bench press, because that means what you're doing is you're lowering a bar to your chest with more weight than you can handle, pushing it up. So if you're doing a proper negative, you cannot lift the bar back up off your chest. So obviously you need at least one person spotting you, depending on how heavy it is. And most times, gentlemen, if you're doing 200 pounds, if you're doing 300 pounds, you're trying to do some negatives, you need two spotters, one on each side of the bar. And actually, you need three, one in the middle and two on the sides. Don't be stupid. Don't think that that casual gym bro behind you spotting you is going to be able to lift 300 pounds off your chest, bent over a bench, if it needs to save your life. So don't be stupid. Be smart, okay? Be wise. Be wise like the Gainsman over here by Swole Central, okay? Watch my podcast, watch my YouTube, check my YouTube at Swolenormous. I'm live on Periscope right now and Busker, both at Swolenormous. You can find this content also on iTunes and SoundCloud. All the episodes are on SoundCloud, and I think the last about 10 or 15 are on iTunes. So check that out, all at Swolenormous. This is The Daily Swole, episode 32. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a nice, buff, ripped, shredded, pumped Tuesday. Enjoy your afternoon wherever you are. Love ya. Peace out. See you tomorrow.